What's up, dudes? Jake here. Today we're back on the 92 F1 build. We already got a couple things done as you saw by the intro, but I'll kind of catch you up. First off, you saw that we got the driver's side GPS in along with the switch pros down here. And so this is just done with the back plate, and it's not like a tube going to the dash bar. So that's just in there. It's adjustable obviously, but you can see when I shake it, it doesn't shake down here, so we don't really have to add that tube. And then the switch pros, it's kind of just chilling in here right now. We just got the hole drilled and we're gonna have to mount that. We also got our KC cyclones mounted up here. We kind of just tucked them up under there so they would still shine down on the shock and in this area, but it's not somewhere where you're gonna see it, so it's kind of discreet. And it's gonna be easy to run a line off of here and just run it into the harness. So right now we're working at the back of the truck. We're trying to get this skid plate in. When we got aluminum to do the paneling, we also got a thicker piece to do the skid, which will be the bottom of the trunk. So it's a little bit bigger, as you can see, but what we did is we held it up under there. You can see the jack. We jacked it up and figured out where we needed to cut it. So Christian's working on figuring out how we're gonna cut that right now. And on the truck itself, it's gonna go to the inside of the frame rails, and it won't be like laying on the bottom, it'll be tucked in here. These are the tabs we got from ORW a while back, and this is what are gonna be used to mount the skid plate. There's gonna be a total of 8. So 3 at the front, 3 at the back, and then 1 in the middle going this way. So that's what's gonna keep this thing all held down. All right, so here's all the cutoff wheels we're gonna have to use for the skid plate. We're just racking them up. It's like, what is that, like $20 in cutoff wheels?
More than that.
Yeah, so that's just gonna be done to cut this side, and then we gotta go pick up some more for the other sides. And yeah, we'll have this done next video. See you in the next one. On a real note though, we did just try cutting the aluminum with the cutoff wheel, and it worked. It's still a little slow, but it's way faster than the skill saw that we were using. As you can see, this is a big piece, which is why it takes so long, and it's pretty thick. But nothing was really getting caught up in the wheel, which is what we were worried about. But so we're gonna have to do this on every other side. This was a fresh cutoff wheel when we started, so we're probably gonna go through like 2 or 3 of these on the whole piece itself. But we don't have anything else that we can really cut it with because we don't have a bandsaw, which would be super helpful. So we're just gonna have to keep cutting it like this, and then it's just gonna be time consuming, but we'll have the piece done and we'll fit it back in the truck. All right, so fast forward a little bit. We've been working on that piece. I think Christian went through 2.5 cutoff wheels just cutting it, and then I've spent a lot of time just sanding it. We've been just mocking it up, seeing what we need to trim off, and then sanding it down and mocking it up again. So right now it's pretty close. As you can see, it's up on the inside of the frame rail right now, but we're having an issue over here where it's sticking down on this side a little bit, and that's because it's stuck on this. There's a little bit of a gap up at the front here, but it's only in the middle of the front side. It's not on the edges. So we're gonna take some off the edges to kind of close that gap up, and hopefully that moves the back far enough forward to where we can slide this up in there. We cleaned the piece up a little bit, got it to fit a little bit better, and now it's back in the truck. What we're marking right now is the spots where all the tabs are gonna sit that are gonna mount it. So what we did is measure across, which was 38.25, and then we went to the middle, and then we went about 16 inches out on each side to mark the outer tabs. And so we're doing that on all of them, and then we're gonna get them all lined up, tack them in, and then we're gonna have to drill the holes into the skid plate itself so we can get the bolts through. The skid plate's all in and we got it all welded. The last thing we have to do is go get hardware for all the holes. As you can see, we're just kind of using some jank long bolts with spacers in them because we don't have the right bolts. So we're gonna have to go get those. We're not gonna get them at like Ace because they're super expensive. So that's kind of just like if we really need them. But for most of our bolts, we go to a place called Marshall's, and that's where we get the majority of the stuff for the truck. Christian's been using the Miller-Matic 215. We came from the 211, but we upgraded because you can do TIG on this one as well. So his baseline settings are 19.3 volts and B Wilkie 357 wire speed. And then he kind of just tweaks it for whatever he's doing. So like when we were doing these, Christian noticed that he needed to add a little bit of heat and wire speed. So he just turned it up a little to get the preferred settings. And then as far as the technique goes, when he's welding, he lets it puddle up and then just kind of goes across and goes across. He doesn't do any loops or anything fancy. It's pretty basic and it works fine, as you can see. So now we're moving on to a part of the build that's actually really exciting. As you can see, Christian's already messing with stuff, but he's making templates to do paneling for the back half of the truck. We don't have the bead roller or the shears yet. They're gonna be here tomorrow. So right now, all we can really do is make templates. But like we're doing some pretty large pieces. Like there will be one covering this whole side up to this tube. So it's gonna be quite big. So we're gonna have to do a couple different bead rolls and have a bunch of Zeus tabs, which we're using to mount them. But all that should be here tomorrow. Christian, when should the tabs be here?
When should what?
When should the Zeus tabs be here?
Today.
Okay, so the Zeus tabs will be here today. Thank you, Tyler at CarTech. You ordered those yesterday, right? Yeah, Tyler's, man, he always gets his stuff like super quick. But the stuff from Eastwood for all the bead rolling and stuff should be here tomorrow. Zeus tabs today. We're also getting spark plugs today, or spark plug wires actually. If you remember that we had that problem where they were too short before, we ordered a different set because the last ones were for a round style coil and these are square coils on the truck. I didn't know there's two different kinds and neither did anyone else. But we got the ones for this motor and they should work fine. So we'll get those today and get them all installed. So right now Christian's just taking some measurements for the panel that we're making. He's just measuring from like here to here and then up and down. And what he's just measuring is the piece itself is gonna have to slide over this tube because it's not gonna come in and slide over it. Because as you can see, this tucks in a little bit. So it'd be conflicting trying to get the panel on. So he just took a measurement because we're gonna have to make a slit that goes around right here in the panel. So he's just getting that all drawn up. We got some heat treated ram board, meaning that we just let it sit in the sun for a little bit and now it's a little bit more flat because it comes in a roll as you saw when we did the flooring. So it's a little bit more straight. Christian's just marking it up. We got just kind of a mech workbench that we're working off of, but it's all we need. So he's marking that up, and then we're gonna cut it out and kind of test fit it back up here and see how she fits. We got the rear passenger side panel all cut up, and it's the first time we've done anything like this, so we're still learning, so we didn't really film it. We wanted to just figure things out, and I'm gonna explain to you what exactly we did. So we started off at the bottom. That's what we started trimming first. And a quick tip to get this perfect is you can kind of use your pen and let it ride on the frame rail while you're marking it. So you can just let it ride. It'll make the contour exactly how the frame is. So that's easy for that. The first part we cut actually was this. So we notched it around the sway bar and that's what let us set it down. And then the next thing we did was measure over to the bump stop here so we know this distance. And then kind of cut around here. So it sat there. And then we marked this part and cut it. And then after that, we did the same thing for the top. So we went bottom to top, and then we finally marked the sides. So it's just kind of step by step. Most of the time was just spent trimming everything because you can't mark it and then cut it and it's gonna be perfect. We probably mocked this thing up and took it back to the table probably 15 to 20 times just to get everything right. Because we're really picky too, like we want all the gaps to be the same. So that makes it even harder. But this side, we mocked it up on the other side and it was pretty close. So a few things were a little bit different, but for the most part, we just replicated that whole piece onto here and Christian's marking it and cutting it out right now. And then we'll have that side fitted as well. And then after that, we're gonna have to move on to these front pieces and get those mocked up. The new plug wires came today as well. These are Taylor Thunderbolt 50s for those that are really concerned about the part number. But as you can see, we have one in here. It goes from the plug to the coil without any problems. It doesn't really rub anywhere. We have to put these sleeves on there as well. Here's one that's already done. I'm not sure if they're gonna work exactly because this is all you can get it on. So I'm not sure if it's gonna rub anywhere on the motor. So we're gonna have to test fit it with the sleeve on there to see if it works. If not, it's not a huge deal because we have the header wrap on the headers themselves, so that'll keep out a lot of heat. So we could just run them with these guys if we have to. What we've mostly been doing to cut these things out and trim them up is just a big straight edge, some scissors, razor blade, a tape, and this right here, which has actually been super helpful to get a whole bunch of radiuses because they have a lot of common sizes, like 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches, 2 inch. They have basically everything, so you can make radiuses around stuff like this or like right here. So that's going to be helpful as well when we're making the designs for the bead roller, because they're not just going to be straight corners, they're going to be rounded. So we can just throw that on there and mark it and get a nice radius. So that's super helpful. We just got that today, and I don't know why we haven't gotten one sooner, because it saves a lot of time trying to make a perfect radius. We got the driver's side all on. This side went super smoothly. It was pretty easy because all we had to do was trace out the other side and change a couple things. So this side fits super good. As you can see around this tab, we like notched around the weld a little bit and it's super clean. As well as up here, it fits around the bump stop super nice. On this side, it's not as perfect. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap here, which is fine. That's not a big deal. Just when we draw it, like when we trace this piece onto the metal, we'll move this line over like 1/4 inch to compensate for that gap. And we can do that for here as well, just to clean things up a little bit. So that's not a huge deal. Christian and I were looking at making this back plate. It's gonna be kind of complicated because it's a hard piece once you make it to slide in here and get fitted because of all these tubes. So we might have to make it out of 2 pieces for it to be able to slide in here and get like in place. So we're kind of thinking about how we're gonna do that. And for the piece up here as well, it's gonna have to come up and break. We don't have a press brake, so we might have to go to someone that has one, or we're gonna have to make it out of 2 pieces, one that goes along here and one that goes up here from this tube to the one up here. So we might have to make that out of 2 pieces as well. We're not really sure yet, but you can kind of get a visual of how the trunk's gonna look. There's these big bars in the way, and that's because we didn't originally plan on having a trunk in this truck. It was kind of an afterthought. So that's not a huge deal, it's just kind of annoying. But if we knew we were gonna have a trunk in this truck originally, we would have laid out the tubes differently to allow for that. But again, it's not a huge deal. I'm stoked that we're starting to get this stuff done. The next thing's just gonna be making a few more templates, and then once the stuff gets here tomorrow, I'll get cranking on it. Tomorrow, in the next video, I'll probably walk you guys through us making a template for one of these panels. And then of course, I'll walk you guys through making the actual metal piece as well. Because I want you guys to kind of learn with us how we're doing this. Because again, it's our first time doing this, and I'm assuming a lot of you have never done this before. So I kind of want to give you some insight as to how we're doing everything and how we're learning how to do it. I started getting these plug wires in here as well with the sleeves on them. I just put 2 in for now. I'm gonna do the rest right after I end this video. But those are going in fine. They actually fit, which is a huge relief. I didn't want to have to send back a second set and get another set. So we can get that all wrapped up, and that's honestly probably all we're gonna have to do on the motor itself for the motor and everything to get wired in the truck. So the motor's basically, we don't have to touch it for now. It's kind of at a final stage. We do have to get the intake bolted in. It's honestly just sitting up there right now. I kind of want to talk about the dash as well and what else we're putting in it, because I haven't really explained that. So we got that GPS and switchpros in and everything, and we have a few more things to mount in here. There's going to be an air vent right here, as well as on the other side of the steering wheel, and that's for eventually when we put like vintage air in this thing and we have AC. But for now, when we put them in, they're just going to be cosmetic. We also have to put in a race pack, which will go right here, and then we'll have our stereo right here. And over here in this space, we're gonna have the race radio and the intercoms for our headsets. And that's basically gonna be everything that's going in the dash. This dash will get wrapped with either like a leather or a vinyl or something. We have to make a cover plate right here as well. We're not gonna do one on the back side because we want to be able to put our feet up in here because the legroom's pretty tight with the 3rd seat. But that's basically what we're doing with the dash. We just gotta put in a few more things, and then it'll be time to wire it and wrap it. Also, before I end the video, I want to give a shout out to everyone who's been giving me feedback on these videos and how they want to see them be improved. A couple guys on like Desert Rangers and Instagram have been giving me like huge feedback on how to make the videos better and more informative to people. So I definitely look at all that stuff and I take it into account when I'm making the video, because I always want to be improving and not just be producing the same content if people aren't liking it. So this stuff's for you and to help you. if you're doing a build like this, or if you're trying to learn how to do something like this. And I also want it to be like entertaining to watch as well. So again, just thank you to everyone who's been giving us feedback, because it helps me and it helps you as a viewer. We got the GPS in, we got the switchpros in, we started making templates for the side panels, we got the skid plate in, and we finally got the right plug wires. So that's gonna wrap it up for this video. If you guys like the content, again, like, comment, subscribe. It shows the support for us, and we'll see you in the next one.